Hi, I'm David Michael Boje, and today I'm going to tell you about something I've been studying for almost 40 years, and it has to do with the storytelling processes. And I'm going to apply this knowledge to Project 2025. Project 2025 is a set of stories. If you read the document, which I did, you can use a magnifying glass and look at what I call the antenarrative processes that construct and constitute Project 2025. So what exactly is antenarrative? It's a bunch of fragmented processes, bits and pieces that come together when you compose any narrative. ANTE stands for antecedents. It's in our conversations, in the things we watch on social media, in the documents of 2025. And it asks the questions of how and why is this construction of the storytelling being told? It's to crack the code of everyday life. So let's look at Project 2025. Well, we're going to take these antenarrative storytelling processes and we'll look at how it comes from the Heritage Foundation. Didn't just start with Donald J. Trump. We're going to dive in to the playbook of 2025, Project 2025. And I'm using work that I've developed over the last 40 years as a professor at UCLA, Loyola Marymount, New Mexico State University, and now I'm affiliated with Fisk University. So beneath, before, bets, being, becoming, between, beyond. They all start with the word be. So let's go beneath to the backstory of 2025. There's assumptions baked into Project 2025. For example, it talks a lot about positive change that the conservatives want to have for the rest of us. But what gets left out of this conservative project? Now, before gives us a historical context of Project 2025, and understanding the background of the Heritage Foundation since 1973 when they were founded, at a time when there was massive political change in the United States. It's where they're coming from, the before of Project 2025. In the future, the next B is the bets on the future. These are antes. You say ante up in poker and you put in your money. So there's a lot of money being spent on Project 2025 as a bet on the future. It has a document that's very upfront about wanting to dismantle the liberal left. And that's their roadmap for America. That's their grand plan, the bet on the future. But how do they plan on doing that? It's putting in the God-given individual rights and their reading of the Constitution, etc. But underneath that is the policies that enable corporations and the government and the school system to change radically. It's an attack on DEI initiatives, abortion rights, the right of a woman to have power of her own body that's given over to government. How does Project 2025 plan to make this happen? It's in the being notion, being in the world of Trumpism. So being is an anti-narrative snapshot of how conservatives see the world right now. So Project 2025 has strong opinions about the EPA. The being of the EPA is going to change more radically, even more than it did so in the first presidency of Donald J. Trump. The 100 environmental regulations were tossed out. EPA was de-staffed down to a few people. But now they're going to add, like political conservatives, being managers of each department of the EPA. Now they call this the bright and positive future of the EPA, the conservative EPA. the being of that EPA is going to be disrupted. Will this be a better tomorrow, a better bet on the future? The people that like the EPA and regulating corporations' exploitation of the natural world don't want this big change. Don't. So the four who's of the between is next. The corporate, governmental, the egoistic, the social, the ecological. Look at the example of how Trump is often seen as egoistical, driven by his own personal beliefs and his desire for revenge, right? Kind of paranoid. And it gives you a sense of how Project 2025 might unfold and whose voices are going to be sidelined. Ecological who is sidelined, social who is sidelined, right? Corporate who takes front stage as long as they give billions of dollars to Trump. So we've covered a number of the B's. When it comes to the final two, we're going to get deeper into bets and then beyond. Now, bets on the future, you say ante up in poker, as I said before. So they invest in bets in the future, they being both the Republicans and Democrats. So you have very different bets on the future by Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Now, Project 2025 focuses on education and vouchers for schools and defunding much of public education, getting rid of a whole department of education. So the anti-narrative angle here is the push for school choice is framed as giving parents more freedom, but it also defunds public school systems, which is where most people are educated, is where I was educated. So it really shifts the resources in play in education. And it plays out in other areas, such as social. 2025 challenges DEI, diversity, inclusion, equity. It's a hot button issue. I know in true storytelling, we train DEI people to go into corporations, bring in diversity, equity, inclusion. So, True Storytelling, a book with Jens Larsen, Lena Bruun, and myself. We do training. One of that kind of training is in DEI. So, throwing that out, can you imagine what corporations are going to be like without DEI? So let's go to the beyond, the seventh of the antenarrative storytelling processes. We're about to get a little spiritual because Donald Trump has a different spirituality selling his King James Bible than Kamala Harris, the Baptist, who treats being a steward of our earth over God's creation is very, very important. So how you interpret dominion depends on what faith you hold into and the history of that faith. And King James wanted an interpretation of dominion that privileged King James and other kings that would follow him. I'm not going to say King Trump, I'm not going to say that. But it's about the well-being of the planet. If we treat the planet, we're going to be steward of the planet and its social ecology, and what I call the spiritual ecology, as Gregory Kahete writes about it in his books. Indigenous scholar and frequent keynote speaker at our annual conference. So we want to grapple with and reflect on the underlying beliefs of Project 2025, as well as our own reflection on our own beliefs and practices. So we've gone from dissecting a policy document to our place in the universe, the meaning of our place in the universe. And I'm going to ask you to become an anti-narrative activist. to not only question these narratives of Project 2025, but to change the storytelling in our own life. So that's the part I want to get into next, is what you can do. So we've gone through the 7 Bs, right? The beneath, the before, the bets, the becoming, the being, the between, the beyond. But after talking about social ecology, I want to talk a little bit more about the beyond, because it's where the rubber meets the road. It's about the living beings of the world, millions and millions of species in the world, of which humans are only one. But how do we use beyond that anti-narrative storytelling process in the real world? Understanding the Project 2025 means understanding its consequences for the beyond, for being, etc. A lot of power and influence has gone into Project 2025, and it's up to us to question the narrative of Project 2025 and its anti-narrative little components that constitute it. Got to get to the why behind Project 2025. And this is something each of us can do. Uncover the values driving this narrative, this conservative approach to the American dream, which is really a corporate approach to the American dream, which is really a billionaire approach to the American dream. We can craft our own narrative by understanding our own anti-narrative fragments that compose that narrative. It involves a lot of responsibility, a lot of accountability and answerability for our own storytelling. This is where it gets really interesting. Anti-narrative is about creation, the power of storytelling to inspire, to motivate, and to create. But that takes an understanding of the anti-narrative pieces that compose these narratives. The anti-narratives that composed Project 2025, the main takeaway is, please don't be afraid to challenge the stories of this election and Project 2025. Learn to ask why and what are the values driving the narrative of Project 2025. And to understand that, you get at the constituting anti-narrative processes. So that comes to the end of our presentation. I hope you're feeling empowered and to be an anti-narrative activist, because I want to remind you, we all have a story to share. We all have a story, and we're all part of the storytelling world. So thank you very much. Please give it a subscribe, a share, and a like. I would appreciate that. Put in a comment, and I'll try to answer you. Thank you very much.